Finger strength is important for every climber, and this year I had more ambitious goals outside that I want to accomplish and knew I needed to work on it to get better. Over the years, I just built strength slowly by climbing, but there's an even more efficient way to build finger strength, something that every top level climber does, and that's use a hangboard. A hangboard is really great because it's an efficient way at isolating the forearm muscles to build that finger strength. So this month I challenged myself to train on a hangboard to see what difference it would make in my climbing. So here's 1 month training on a hangboard. To start things off, I called up Dave MacLeod, a legendary pro climber and someone who had made a giant leap forward in his own climbing progress by introducing hangboard exercises into his training.
To be honest, when I started fingerboarding, I've kind of done it very regularly ever since. I mean, I just had a step change in my climbing ability because that was so fundamental. It's one of the few times in my life where I was like, I really made a jump. So I knew that I should just keep doing it. The only time that I'm not doing it is really when the weather's good. If I'm not out climbing all the time, which is periods in the year, then I do try and fingerboard. Do some sort of amount of fingerboarding in almost every training session I do, just because your fingers can never be strong enough, and it's such a basic tool, and as long as you get a few basics right, it's such a safe tool to use, so it's really a brilliant thing to do.
You can listen to our full discussion on my channel, and Dave has a couple videos dedicated to the topic of hangboarding on his. These are great sources for technique and training strategies, so I really recommend checking them out. Before I started training, I went to the climbing gym to find my benchmarks. I use the Beastmaker 1000 board because it's one of the most common hangboards and can be found in almost every gym. I use the 18mm edge because it's a size I felt comfortable on while adding weight, and it was pretty close to an edge size I'd had at home on my own board. After a good warm-up, I started adding weight to reach my max limit. I'm trying to hold a position for 7 to 10 seconds. Holding for less than 7 seconds means the weight is too much, and longer than 10 seconds means I'm moving into more endurance training when I want to be focused on pure strength. One of the best finger positions for training, and the one I'm going to focus on for the month, is the half crimp position. In this position, I'm keeping my fingers at a 90-degree bend. Now, depending on the anatomy of your hand, you may or may not be able to hold your pinky at a 90-degree position, but the index, middle, and ring finger should all be at a 90-degree. My benchmark starting the month off in the half crimp position is adding 24 kilos onto my body weight. That's an extra 53 pounds, so that's 133% of my body weight. And with a more open hand grip, you can see that my index fingers are fairly straight here. I was able to do 32 kilos, so 70 pounds, which is a total of 144% of my body weight. Now that's a pretty big difference between the two, and probably why I prefer open hand holds over smaller crimps. At home, I was training on Dave MacLeod's custom board, the Edge Hangboard. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. I start my sessions with dynamic stretching. I'll use a resistance band and then warm up my shoulders, then do some slow controlled pull-ups. Once I feel warm, I'm ready to go. When I'm working out at home, I'm not using weights because I don't have kettlebells. So I start off by using both hands on the fairly good edge. It's around 20-21 millimeters. And then I make it harder by dropping my index or pinky finger on one or both hands. And it's crazy how much harder it gets when you start doing this. But by working on this, I'm able to isolate the fingers even more and improve areas that might be compensated by stronger fingers. Okay, week 1 is done, and it was a bit of a trial period because I was trying to figure out how often I can hangboard while still climbing. I would do hangboard session in the morning, I'd work, and then I'd climb at night. And obviously, by the time I got to climbing at night, I was pretty tired, my forearms were already sore, so I wasn't projecting stuff at my normal grade level, but that's okay because it's all about that long-term gain. But the good news is I know it's working because I could feel the soreness in my forearms. I'm definitely focusing in on the finger strength, which is what I wanted, and it's great. What I'm switching up for week 2 though is I'm gonna separate the hangboard and climbing days. I might take more rest to see if it improves my sessions and I get better performance, but this week I'll do hangboard, climb, and add in some rest days. So week 2 starts now, and I gotta warm up. I think one of the hardest things about doing hangboard training while you're trying to climb at the gym is that you need to manage your expectations about what you're gonna be able to do in that session. A lot of pro climbers that I've met will have hangboard sessions in the same day that they have climbing sessions, and they'll maintain a high volume throughout the week. But for someone like myself who's still trying to build more finger strength as opposed to just maintain what I've got, I learned that it was better to reduce the amount of volume in order to increase the output I can maintain. I couldn't go into the gym and project at my regular level, but I knew in the long term I'd be getting stronger overall. So I looked at this time as a month of building and focused on future goals for performing. For week 3, I did the same strategy as week 2, where I had 2 hangboard sessions and 2 gym sessions. All right, I'm having a session today with AIDAN. So, AIDAN, I put him on the spot. One second. I gotta get behind the camera. How often do you use the hangboard?
Actually, at the moment, every climbing session I have, I always like use it to warm up. So I'll always do like some recruitment before my session, usually for like half an hour or so, but that's like before every time I climb pretty much. So I've kind of struggled with some like finger injuries over the winter, and I found like warming up on a hangboard like helps me like to load my like pulleys in control, as opposed to like when I climb. I feel like there's always like factors like foot slips, or like you've got to go dynamically to hold, and like it's slightly less controlled. So I'm quite slow with the warm-up, but I find like loading them in control is like much more useful for me, and I feel like it's actually much safer warming up on a fingerboard for me than climbing.
And everybody talks about how legendary your crimp strength is.
Oh.
Do you think hangboarding has a lot to do with that?
Yeah, I think so. I've played around with it a lot over the years, maybe 5 years or so. It's always played a big part of my training. It's also, I think, really useful in that you can put a lot of effort into your training without like losing skin, say, or which is often quite a big limiting factor in training. Definitely like getting used to like the feeling of pulling on really small holds. Definitely contributed towards my like success on small holds outside. That's how useful.
That was perfect. From a V15 climber, I'll take it.
By week 4, I was feeling a bit stronger and had more time to rest, so I did 2 hangboard sessions and 3 gym sessions. But by the time it came to test my new benchmark, the UK businesses started to close, and we went into a lockdown like many other countries trying to battle the pandemic. So the best I could do was use my hangboard at home. Now the edge on my board at home is about 2 to 3 millimeters wider than the Beastmaker I used at the beginning of the month. But it's pretty sloped on this edge, so it gets to be pretty close. Now, because I didn't have kettlebells at home, I had to get creative by adding weight somehow. So I used a giant IKEA bag, added a 10-kilo bag of rice, a bunch of cans of Tenzing, and slowly built it up from there. I'd be weighing it on the scale each time, so I knew exactly how much it was, and I could add more or less cans depending on how much weight I needed. For anyone else trying to do this at home, my bag started to rip around the 34-35 kilo mark, so just keep that in mind. And you can't see, but I've got a clock on the other side of the room, so I can actually count down the seconds to get the 7 seconds that I'm looking for. I didn't know what to expect from the month of hangboard training, but I was really happy with the results. In the half crimp position, which was my weaker grip and the one I was focusing on, I managed to hold my body weight plus 30 kilos of added weight. That's 66 pounds, which is 6 kilos more than my starting benchmark and makes for a total of 141% of my body weight, which is an 8% increase from the beginning of the month. All right, open hand time. I've added the rest of the drinks, some peanut butter, some water. You gotta get creative, right? Just added a bunch of stuff to this bag. The IKEA bag is definitely ripping. Almond milk. And for the open hand grip, I also saw a 6 kilo increase going from 32 to adding 38 kilos of weight, which is 84 pounds. And that's 152% of my body weight and another 8% increase from my benchmark at the beginning of the month. So my open hand grip saw an equal improvement to the half crimp despite only training the half crimp position. This is probably why coaches recommend focusing your training on the half crimp technique, because the beneficial impact from this finger position translates into others. So I am really excited with the results from this training. I didn't know what to expect, but an 8% increase was a lot more than I was thinking. And I know it wasn't an exact comparison from the first board to the last board, but it was still pretty close and I felt the difference when I was lifting that weight. So I'm really happy to add hangboarding now into my training and know that it's really effective at what it does. And for many of us, we might be in lockdown for weeks or months, so it's nice to know that we can use something like a hangboard to maintain our strength and even get stronger in the time that we have. So I'm gonna keep training on the hangboard. Good luck to you if you do as well. Stay safe, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.